I'm gonna tell you why I think the Project Cars series, mainly 2, is GOATED, not you. I know, this is a bold claim, but hear me out. Sim racing has had many influential titles over the years that changed, molded what we expect a sim racing title to have. R-Factor 1 and Assetto Corsa democratized sim racing with user-generated content. It made sim racing accessible to pretty much everyone. iRacing created the standard for online racing and competitive matchmaking. Competizione brought fidelity unprecedented to the cars and racing rules for a series. Some other titles might be good, but they failed to define anything in particular. The Project Cars series, mainly Project Cars 2, is part of the first group, but comes at it from a very different angle. It has many things far more similar to a Gran Turismo title than some of the sim racing ones here mentioned. Let's first of all say that Project Cars titles are flawed, and at places deeply flawed. It is a series that very obviously has suffered from scope creep. A lot of features were pushed into the games and then the polished wasn't there. So the experience was sometimes variable. And we also need to mention that Slightly Mad Studios released the Fast and Furious Crossroads. I know a lot of the comments will start to talk about the physics of Project Cars 2 being unrealistic or arcade, and my sim does it better than yours. First, this video isn't about the physics. Second, it is not true at all. I'm going to leave Nick Romano's video below.
Hello, I'm Nick Romano.
His video is extremely good.
Cars 2 is a better tire model than iRacing.
Go leave him a sub, and while you're at it, leave one here as well. Since that is out of the system now, Project Cars, mainly 2, is GOATED because it feels like a finished product. It's a simple thing to say, but it has so many layers. From the moment you turn it on, there's a real user interface that is somewhat easy to understand. Everything is in the place you would expect it to be, and best of all, the experience also transfers mostly towards the racing and the necessary features to support it. I'm going to say mostly because scope creep is a thing in this game. Some cars do feel odd. Project Cars has a full roster of cars, some better than others. Some classes are complete or close to complete. The amount of choices, the possibilities of this title are endless. It's almost like they had multi-class racing in mind from the get-go. It's funny because the multiplayer was mostly filled with GT and GT3. You know, like today, but now it's Assetto Corsa Competizione and iRacing. Also, thank you very much LFM, you did a great job with ACC and R-Factor 2. The amount of content was tremendous, not just modern stuff. There's plenty of vintage cars and tracks around to satisfy your GPL laps fetish. The content came all the way from the 50s. There's historic versions of Spa, Le Mans, Silverstone, passing to plenty of modern circuits. There's Portimao, so nice. It means it's good. There's more modern formulas, there's IndyCar, there's oval stuff, there's GT3 stuff, and even karting. Most of all of these can be compiled in ways that you wouldn't think of. The content is cool, the way it can be used with the features is cooler, and the immersion of it all is cooler. To this day, I think the series is the most immersive sim racing title out there. The way it feels raw is so good, the visuals are absolutely amazing. Doing Nordschleife at night in the Thunderstorm is a great example, only made better by still likely the best VR implementation out there for sim racing. It is crisp, even with mid-range hardware. A big thing about Project Cars was the community aspect of the sim, accessible from the menus. It came in a few ways. It was super easy to create a lobby with its own rules without needing any servers at all. That made casual and community racing easy to do. A lot of fun was to be had. The multi-class weather features just added so much to the community aspect of it. It is here where Project Cars took a lot from the Gran Turismo series, with very easy to set up lobbies without needing a rented server. The community aspect wasn't limited only to the racing side of things. Part of the draw was the outlining leaderboards. Choose a car, you choose a track, and then you do your best against everybody else. Of course, there was plenty more than I just spoke in Project Cars, but it showed that polish can be had in the user experience of a sim racing title. The features can be selected and used easily without going through hoops, praying to the arcane gods to make something work, or going through obscure ways. Project Cars, for all its flaws, is still a polished user experience. There's no weird menus, there's no need for third-party apps at all. There's no need for a workshop page or going 3 web pages deep to activate something you already owned and you activated on your last install. There's no going through forums to make the most basic of operations work. It just did it, and it did it in the PC and in the consoles. How many modern sims currently on sale can you say it works with this level of polish? To my knowledge, really only Assetto Corsa Competizione, where there's of course a few inspirations of the user interface design, but even so, it isn't as polished as Project Cars 2 in that department. You want to buy something in iRacing? You go through menus and menus. You want to activate something in R-Factor 2? The same thing. Assetto Corsa requires Content Manager or it just feels clunky. Competizione is the closest, but still lags behind on the weather implementation. The big and small things are what makes Project Cars, mainly 2, GOATED. An all-inclusive racing sim with plenty of content, many things to do, and features that even 5 years later haven't been surpassed in the sim racing space, all the while having a super polished user interface and general experience. It's just too bad that Ian Bell fucked everything up.